We got a lot to discuss here today as far as the baseball scenario is concerned. And now that we've really had a chance to digest the managerial scenarios from yesterday, let's go through it. We give the Guardians a break with Vogt. We'll have to wait and see on that. We discussed that yesterday. The bigger picture, of course, is the whole thing with Counsell, Cubs, Brewers, then the Mets on the other side. First off, Counsell. Listen, he's not Samuel Gompers, but I know he likes to think he's going to increase the managerial price. And the managerial prices are a joke. These guys don't get paid enough money, and he got $40 million for 5 years. So, from that standpoint, good for Counsell. From that, upping the ante and floating the water for the boats and all those kinds of things. Now he's not worth it, but if the Cubs want to sit there and give him $40 million and fire a good manager because of it, that's the Cubs' problem. We'll get to that in a minute. But as far as Counsell is concerned, he's done a nice job. He's a good manager, and he got $8 million a year. Good for him. That's a good business decision. He found a team that wanted him desperately. I don't know if the Brewers would have ever matched that, and he got the deal to go to Chicago. Now, let's not forget that he's never won a pennant. And he's 1-9 in his last 10 postseason games. They have done nothing in a postseason since Game 7 against the Dodgers. And enough of this theme and this theory, well, you know what, he wins in the NL Central, so give him credit. Nonsense. The Reds have been awful. Pirates never win. The Cubs, since they had that great stretch there in the 16, 17, and 18, they haven't spent any money, much to the chagrin of a lot of fans in Chicago. They have sort of tightened their belt as they rebuild Wrigleyville and all those kinds of things. And the Cardinals, although a nice payroll, is not a gargantuan payroll. So the idea that he won a division that includes, the Yankees and the Red Sox and nonsense. He's won a division that's not a big payroll division, and he hasn't done anything in the postseason, to be fair. So let's take Counsell. He's not Miller Huggins. Let's take him aside. And one other thing, and I've heard a lot of this is going to make me crazy. Don't make it sound like that he can go home for dinner every night. Wrigley Field to Whitewater, wherever the town he lives in Wisconsin, that is not 10 minutes, okay? He's not going to rent a helicopter. You go on that for, you know what the traffic is? You got to get to that airport 6 hours before flight time in case you can't get there because of the roads. And that's how you get to Milwaukee. So the idea that somehow, some way, he's going to be able to sit there and be close to home, quote unquote. No, it's not. I live in Connecticut. How about if I took a job in Philadelphia? About the same distance. Am I close to home? No, I'm not. I'm not close to home. So the idea, well, he didn't want to go to New York because Chicago's close to, it's not close to home. It's a different city, different market, and everything else. So we give Counsell credit. The Cubs, they fired a good manager, which is not the right thing for the Cubs to do. Cubs think they got a manager that's going to win anything. They should have gotten Bochy if they thought that, because he has not won a thing, and he's lost 9 of his last 10 postseason games, to be fair, and got swept by Arizona at home. So let's keep that in mind if you're Jed Hoyer thinking that all of a sudden you found a holy grail. And Ross got a bad deal, because Ross has been an excellent manager for that team for the 3 or 4 years he's been there. They play hard. 2 years ago, they knocked everybody out in September. This year, they had a bad couple weeks. I'm not going to dispute that. But the Cubs were not, that's not a very talented roster. Let's call it like we see it. So from that standpoint, I'm not going to sit there and kill. Ross didn't deserve to be fired. That's the bottom line. And it's not like they brought in a manager. This is not Joe Madden and Renneria a few years ago. This is Ross, who's a good manager, won a championship there with, of course, Counsell, who's never won a pennant. And as far as Milwaukee is concerned, they sound like they're shocked. How can anybody leave the great organization of the Brewers? Calm down, all right? Cubs have more money than you. Cubs are a bigger market than you. The ballpark is phenomenal, and you're not the LA Dodgers. The idea that the Milwaukee Brewers are crestfallen and how could you ever leave this community? Nonsense. Take it easy. You've only had a team there since 1969-70 when Bud Selig brought him in for Seattle. Don't give me the Milwaukee Braves. It's a different franchise. So the idea somehow, some way that the Brewers are some unbelievable how could anybody dare leave us? You're not the Los Angeles Dodgers. You're not the Yankees. All right, that's not fair. Don't give us that. Counsell got a better deal. And the idea, if you're so bothered about this, well, when I answered the question yesterday, if you would have matched the contract, you didn't give us an answer. Well, I didn't say you didn't give me an answer. If, in fact, Craig came back to you and said, okay, you want me to stay, this great community, here's $40 million, sign, I'll stay here. And you didn't answer it. So I can't listen to Milwaukee. So I'm mad at everybody right now. The commute, Ross getting fired, the Cubs thinking they found the next great manager when he's 1-9 in the postseason, hasn't done anything since 2018, Milwaukee thinking of the LA Dodgers. And then that brings us to the Mets. You mean to tell me right now if they wanted Counsell so badly, give him $50 million. The owner wants to build an $80 billion complex around Citi Field and get rid of all the garages out there in right field. You mean give him $50 million? If this is the guy that you wanted, they gave Lindor $314 million. They couldn't. They spent a fortune to get Scherzer and Verlander and then unload them. If you feel this manager is that good, get him. And money should be no object. Because you can't sit there, have Buck Showalter, 4 managers of the year, and you wanted Counsell, a good manager. All right, he's not Miller Huggins, but a good manager, and then you give me Carlos Mendoza. You can't sell that to New York City. I'm sorry, you can't do it. And I've been here for 40 years. You cannot sell that to the New York Met fan, this is the toughest job in the world in New York. The Met fan has a terrible inferiority complex because they never win. They've only won the 2 titles, and the Yankees always dominate, and that bothers the Met fan to no end. That's number one. Number two, they never liked the previous ownership, so they're very suspicious on ownerships. Even Mr. Cohen, they're suspicious a little bit about him. Not as much because he spent a fortune, but, some of the ways and everything else, they've been a little suspicious. So if from that standpoint, this is an impossible job. And you cannot tell me, and listen, he might be the biggest pain in the neck because a lot of people have told me privately, they're not for public consumption, who I know are involved with the Mets, who said, believe me, Chris, don't use me, but everybody in that organization, not players, but everybody in that organization want Buck out of there. Impossible to deal with, thinks he knows it all, very hard to work with, so they all wanted him out there. You know what, I don't care about that. And nor does the fan. All I know is that 2 years ago, Buck did a tremendous job. They won 101 games before Scherzer and company blew up in the postseason. All right, this year, they had all sorts of injuries, including Diaz, all sorts of guys banged up. Scherzer was a mess. Verlander was a mess. They traded him, and he was left with nothing. And he still did a nice job in the month of September. So the idea now that you're going to convince me, if you're the Mets, that they brought the better manager in than Buck Showalter, how in the world can you convince me of that? Carlos Mendoza, first off, the Yankees last year were 82-80. He was the bench coach. They were 82-80. They were a laughing stock. They had a $300 million payroll, and they were a disaster. They had to hire an outside firm to say what was wrong with the team. They were 82-80. And it's not like, listen, he's a good man, and I'm not trying to get on him, but Aaron Boone is not John McGraw, okay? He's not John McGraw. And he was his bench coach. When did the Mets out-strategize people? Oh, the Yankees, I apologize. When did they out-strategize people? Did you ever watch a Yankee stretch of games and says, wow, boy, what a genius? I never said that. Did you? And they never beat the Astros in the postseason. And they can't hit. They haven't been in the World Series since 2009. And this is the guy you're going to run to get? And you're going to fire Buck to do it? In New York City? When, and I'm not saying the fans necessarily love Buck, but boy, oh boy, oh boy. That is, don't let me hear, well, 4 of the teams wanted him. Well, let the other teams hire him then. The Guardians didn't hire him. Let the other teams hire him. And you could say I'm being unfair. This is a guy who's never managed a day in his life, and you're putting him in New York City, a team that's got an inferiority complex coming off an awful year, and the guy that you fired has been a 4-time manager of the year who's going to get another job shortly. You can't tell me you did well there. Why? Because somehow, some way, now he's going to, basically decide, let the front office pick the lineups. And the Yankees, the most data-oriented team in the history of the sport. So everybody in the world thinks that Boone is told what to do by Cashman. And who's his right-hand man? Mendoza. So now you got the GM putting the lineups and the pitching staff together. One more time, loudly. Who GM this year? Who's the best GM in baseball this year? Chris Young. Did he go to, he went to Princeton. He is an ex-player. He knows what he's doing. Who did Chris Young hire? Bruce Bochy. How does he manage? By the gut. Who's going to the Hall of Fame? Carlos Mendoza or Bruce Bochy? Who's the top 5 managers in the history of the sport? Bruce Bochy, who was unemployed for 3 years. Because the statistical guiding geeks out there who run these teams don't know what they're doing, picking managers. And now Counsell goes to Chicago, and then Ross gets fired, and Counsell can't manage his way out of a playoff game. And the Brewers think that they're the Dodgers. No wonder I'm mad. Plus 94-52. I'm mad about that too.